The flames in Kyiv showed that the talks in Geneva changed nothing, at least for now. For all the talk of a turning point, the call Alexander received from his mother last night told a different story. A strike and then silence.
She started to panic and then boom. She screamed and then the connection was gone. I ran here as fast as I could. We found her, but she was gone.
This evening, President Zelensky addressed the nation. From almost the same spot where last week he warned it might be forced to choose between its dignity and its most powerful ally. Now, though, he spoke of the progress his team achieved, but only by postponing the hardest decisions.
Команда наша доповідала сьогодні вже по новому драфту кроків, і це дійсно правильний підхід. Чутливі речі, сенситивні речі я обговорю з президентом Трампом.
At the White House tonight, a justification of America's stance which showed the distance between it and Ukraine. The president's spokeswoman used in his defense the words many Ukrainians are using to criticize him.
The idea that the United States of America is not engaging with both sides equally in this war to bring it to an end is a complete and total fallacy.
And that's the heart of Europe's frustration. A White House that appears to weigh the invader and the invaded as though they occupy the same moral ground.
That they are favoring one side over the other. That could not be further from the truth.
Ukrainian and US delegations met yesterday after a Washington peace plan criticized for mirroring Russian demands blindsided Kyiv. European partners put forward their own alternative to try to shift the American position. The kind of negotiations usually fought over in private meetings are laid bare in those two draft documents that reveal the transatlantic gap. In the American draft, point 21, under the heading Territories, Ukraine would be required to surrender all of Crimea, Luhansk and Donetsk, which Ukraine still holds roughly a third of. That clause has vanished from the European version. Point 6 of the US plan limits Ukraine's armed forces to 600,000 troops. The European draft quietly raises that number to 800,000 and explicitly adds the phrase, in peacetime. Then there's point 7, the American document insisting that Ukraine must write into its constitution that it will not join NATO. The European draft says that should depend on consensus within the alliance. And not just that, it also opens the door for Ukraine to join the European Union if it chooses. Tomorrow, allied partners will meet virtually to try to end the confusion about a peace plan for Ukraine.
We will host a coalition willing call to further discuss the progress that is being made and I hope can be made towards the thing that matters above all else, which is a just and lasting peace.
Reports this evening of a Ukrainian drone attack inside Russia at the close of 2 days of diplomatic progress, but not enough to erase the setbacks of the two before it. And it's not only on the battlefield where Ukraine is struggling to move forward. Rohit Katru, News at 10.
Walter Roberts in Washington now. And Robert, Caroline Levitt at the White House sounded optimistic there in Rohit's reports. Guess the world is now waiting to learn what President Trump's next move will be. Any indications?
Well, we know this about Donald Trump, that he's improvisational, that he's transactional. And according to that remarkable briefing today by Caroline Levitt, he's kind of neutral in this epic battle across Ukraine. He sees himself more as a referee than as a steadfast ally of Ukraine's. I think the next moves depend on many different sort of interlocking factors. They certainly depend, as Rohit was saying, on battlefield developments and Ukraine's sort of candid assessment about whether they can cling on to those fortress cities in the east. They depend on Ukrainian civil society and whether it can absorb the pain of surrendering territory. It depends on the sentiments of one man in the Kremlin. Does Vladimir Putin is he genuinely retreating from his maximalist demands? I think what's very striking from Washington is, look, seen through European eyes, the Ukraine war is existential. It is the absolutely central national security and foreign policy issue of the moment. But here in Washington, there are many raging debates. One animated discussion point at the moment is whether there should be an attempted regime change in Venezuela. And then the relationship with China is seen as definitional to the 21st century. And on that front, both President Trump and President Xi spoke today and agreed to talk about reciprocal state visits. So that will happen next year. It's a reminder that Ukraine is important to this White House, but it's only one among many different issues.